So yeah, I'm very happy to host on my podcast. You're the first person coming here. So
All righty. Well, Giannis, it's
I'm,
awesome to be here with you. Congrats on starting the podcast. That's a great step. And as a podcast host myself,
yeah,
just I
I know.
guess welcome to the community. It's a
Thanks.
super saturated field, and it's hard to break through. But I think at least for me, it's just consistently doing the work. And I can say I really enjoyed it. It's a great way to connect with people and learn from
Yeah,
people, and you have an opportunity to research people's books and that kind of stuff. So congratulations, I'm pumped for you.
thanks. Yeah, that's the thing. So I read your book like in February maybe, and I was like, I want to meet this guy,
Yeah, yeah,
And later in
yeah,
my life, I was thinking about like how can I connect with those kind of people because
yeah,
when you do a lot of things that are kind of exotic, kind of marginal, like in a sense, you if you live an average life, you're alone, And I was like, how can I meet those people? And
yeah.
time goes on and I'm like, okay, I want to learn about the mindset of people. And I remember I read your book and I was, damn, I have to invite him.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
good man.
that's
I'm
that's
I'm
how it
glad
goes.
to I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. So maybe you can start by presenting yourself, what you do in life, what you did, and how
Mhm.
you got into the things you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, at this moment, I am an athlete, author, speaker, and coach. I live in Salida, Colorado, which is a small town in the central Rockies at about 7,000 feet, and good place to live. Nice, small community. Great place for kids to grow up. And that's a
Okay.
big part of my life is my wife and my kids. I spend a lot of time being a parent, and honestly,
Yeah.
at this phase, lots of time driving kids to soccer games and practices and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is good. Generally, I'm pretty accepting of that position of my life right now. Spending more time supporting my kids' endeavors than I do, or than I spend a lot less time than I used to going to my own races,
Yeah. That's
pursuing adventures and
wonderful.
goals and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's okay. I'm 40 years old, and in the next, I guess, 8 years here, my kids will be out of the house, and I'll be young enough at that time to continue,
Sure.
doing more trips, maybe spending more time on something like adventure racing or, traveling internationally to a big race or something like that. So,
Yeah.
in some ways I'm trying to be patient. I do, I do, I guess compared to the average person, I still spend a lot of time exercising outside, adventuring. Today I went for a bike ride, mountain bike ride, up here outside Salida in the Cottonwood Trail. Pretty serious technical downhill, and
Okay.
I love it. I used to exercise to race and for the sponsorships, for the podium, for
Yeah.
the prize money, for the results. And somehow. One thing I appreciate about this phase of life is I've really relearned to do these things for the joy of it.
Okay.
Running,
Interesting.
mountain biking, skiing. Those are currently my favorite sports, and mostly I do for joy, for community, for impact at times. Coaching adult endurance athletes or coaching the high school mountain bike team here in town. That's become really important to me. Doing these things to spend time with my kids, with friends in the community. That's become really important. And back to your initial question, how did I get into this stuff?
Yeah.
I grew up here in the Colorado Rockies,
Yeah.
in a different, relatively small town called Evergreen, Colorado, and
There's
I've
nobody.
always been an athlete. I've always liked moving. I've always had energy and just felt energized by doing things and by being outside. And so, I spent a lot of time as a kid and a teenager doing your traditional team sports, soccer, basketball, especially. And, later in high school, really started to get into running. and pursued that at a high level in college and did
Yeah.
some triathlon and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then kind of coming out of college, here almost 20 years ago now, I kind of decided to go all in with the sport of adventure racing and somehow was able to get some good sponsorships that paid for our team to travel around the world and do these big races and that kind of stuff. And it's kind of just been a big piece of my life, I guess, since then.
Okay. So first question I have to ask you is like, what does looks like your work-life balance, between your
Mm,
kids, between your work and with the training? Because like, I assume that you used to train a lot since you were like an ultra endurance athlete, and same for
yeah,
adventure racing. Like you have many sports to train, like climbing, I don't know, rafting,
yep,
biking,
yep,
running. Like this is a lot, and I each time, even without kid, I'm like, how can you train so much different sports
yeah,
and not getting injured, or like maybe do you get injured? Not
yeah.
getting injured, like how the mental, like how do you stay on? How do you continue?
Yeah, yeah. Giannis, that's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer. I really don't know if anyone has sort of the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll say currently, how do I make it work or make it work sort of as well as I can? Usually these days I spend probably 10 to 15 hours a week exercising. So, a decent amount, not as much as, probably most pro athletes, who don't have kids. I am self-employed and that's really helpful. So, work like my own podcast or my writing, or most of my income is coaching adult endurance athletes, that can be done with a somewhat flexible schedule. And a lot of that I am able to set up so that during the approximately 8 hours a day that my kids are at school,
Mhm.
I can.
Oh,
I take my kids to school at 8, and then that first window, that's my best training time. That's usually I'm at either running, biking, or skiing most days, and then after that, kind of back to the computer for calls, interviews, creative writing, nonfiction writing, talking with clients, etc. And that's kind of the general rhythm of my day. The after school time. Usually, I'm either driving my own kids to school or I'm going to coach with a local high school mountain bike team. And then weekends these days, like I said, more and more, it's driving to soccer tournaments and games and stuff. But still here and there, doing a race myself maybe, or doing maybe a bigger backcountry ski mission or something like that if I can fit it in. So, um, that's kind of how I fit it together these days. A
okay.
lot of the years, before I had kids and after college, I had a window of time where I was adventure racing, like you said. That's this dynamic races where you're trekking, you're biking, you're
Yeah.
paddling, you're doing fixed ropes. It's highly dynamic, and there's a lot of many sports, and in each of those sports, you need to have a high level of skill and you need a high level of fitness. And so,
How
how do you?
high is the level of skill? Like
Yeah,
in climbing, I'm curious, like how
yeah.
should we be very high or like above average?
Yeah, maybe above average, and that depends as well. I would say, and kind of, especially with running and biking, the skill needs to be very high.
Okay.
Some adventure races, the paddling skill needs to be very high because you could be
Okay.
in maybe class 3 or 4, even class 5 whitewater.
I don't
And that takes, it's challenging and potentially dangerous. Some races you might have glacier travel, where you're short roped with your team, and again, this is a potentially very dangerous terrain. So you really have to know what you're doing. The climbing itself, usually it's fixed ropes. So
okay.
less of, oh, can you climb a 5'9" or a 5'11" or whatever, and more of, can you safely navigate ropes that have been fixed, doing Tyrolean traverse, doing ascents with Jumars, rappelling, that kind of stuff. So, you don't need to be necessarily professional level in all of these things, but
Yeah.
especially if the teams that win the races, everyone is very good, especially at the three key disciplines of running, mountain biking, and paddling. And then again, it may vary. Some races, the biking, some of these adventure races, you can ride a hardtail bike with slick tires. That might even be the fastest because it's a lot of pavement and maybe some dirt roads and two track, but you're going fast. Some of the races I used to like, and some of the top American teams would do better in the races where you had real single track mountain biking, and it's like
Okay.
technical and it's steep and it's rocky, and that's for whatever reason, at least at that time, some of the top American teams, we had more experience,
Okay.
doing real mountain biking, maybe compared to some of the other teams. Where if you look at the top athletes from Australia and New Zealand, man, I mean, they would always put time on us on the paddling sections because
Okay.
that's what they do. That's what they grow
Yeah.
up doing. We'd be scared shitless out in these ocean swells or whatever, and they're having fun because they're just used to
Yeah.
it.
Okay. And you were saying like you start training after like you go with your kids at school, and like
Yeah.
in your book you say, okay, the best is like wake up at 4:30 a.m. like your father
Mm,
used to do, and
yeah.
be hard, like smash that day. And so there's that kind of thing, like maybe your mindset evolved since that
Mm,
time,
yeah.
like, okay, I'm young, I'm killing myself, I'm giving everything, no matter what. If I'm injured, if I'm in pain, I go. And
Yep.
what about nowadays? Like, are you into more healthy
Mm,
dynamic?
yeah.
So we'll speak later about like your father's situation.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking like, how did this part of the mindset evolve? Because we still hear about a lot nowadays, especially for us young people. Wake up early, that kind
Yep.
of.
Yeah. Yeah. Giannis, that's a really good question, and I think a very insightful question. I appreciate you noticing that. Honestly, there is a difference. My first book, The Ultra Mindset, that came out in 2015, and then our
Yeah,
more recent book, A Mile at a Time, came out in 2023. And I think you're right. There has been an evolution. That's something about writing a book or even doing a podcast, writing an article, etc. It's a snapshot in time
yeah,
of
exactly.
where we are. And so, yeah, when I look at the ultra mindset, yeah, I think it's a good book. I'm proud of it. I believe in most
It's
of
a
the
good
things
one.
that were written in there. And I have experienced a personal shift, especially with that idea of getting up early and sacrificing sleep for
Hmm.
training and adventure. And that's something I still do at times. Maybe there's something specific like some of these races we do. They just start early, or maybe you want to do let's say a particularly backcountry ski objective or something. Sometimes you need to start really in the morning so that you can be going up the snow, when it's hard and frozen, then hopefully skiing down once the sun has hit it and it's a little melted, but it hasn't melted too much. So, those things I still do at times, but yes, far less often do I get up early to try to squeeze in the achievement or the training or the work or whatever. And is that age? Is it something like wisdom? Is it a different phase of life? I know that definitely one thing that's influenced me, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, was my dad's diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease in
Yeah,
2018. And just uh, continuing to learn as much about cognitive decline as I can. And one of the things we now know is just how important sleep is. The when you're asleep, it's sleep till you're dead, sleep when you're dead. I think that's kind of an idea. For me, it's an idea of the past,
yeah,
and what we've learned now is just sleep is really important, and your brain is doing very important activities. Particularly cleaning out the waste products that accumulate during the day when you're awake. So, yeah, I think a lot more carefully about waking up early now, and and maybe to uh, jump off what you said, I think a lot more about even things like not finishing a race. You know,
Oh yeah,
the DNF, right? Did not
yeah,
finish. You know that probably for most of my ultra endurance career, whether it was ultra running or these long mountain bike races, adventure racing, my mindset was like, no matter what, I'm finishing the race. And I think generally that worked. And looking back, I don't I can't really pinpoint any, dangerous decisions or maybe times when I think I should have stopped, because of an injury or something like that. But I just feel like I have a more nuanced view of, oh, when is it a good choice for someone to, to stop racing or to not toe the line or something like that. So yeah, I like to. I hope that there's a little bit more nuance, maybe a little less black and white, and more of just kind of harnessing the gray area, which in many ways is the stuff of life.
yeah. I agree with you, but I think it's a bit hard, to like be more easy on yourself and like
Mm,
to be hardly motivated. Like I don't really, I'm still trying to find a balance between, okay, I don't need to wake up early, I don't need to be hard on myself, and
mm,
okay, I'm getting too lazy by doing this. And maybe I'm thinking, maybe should I go back and waking up early, try to train hard and see, will I be again that much motivated as I used to be? I don't know for you. Are you that motivated are you used to be in 2015?
mm,
And are you still that much motivated despite you don't wake up that early?
yeah.
Or
Mm.
you're the same?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I'm definitely the same guy. I think uh, I'm not sure what to say about motivation. I do think that I'm learning to. I think of it as kind of scratching the itch. I'm learning to, scratch the itch or feed this part of my personality that that wants and probably to some extent needs the intensity, the exercise, the challenge, the nature. Part of me really needs this every
Yeah,
day, every week, every month. But I'm learning to navigate it in a different way, and to maybe satisfy that part of my personality with a little bit less at times. In other words, whereas in the past, my natural thinking was, kind of it's either 300% or nothing.
yeah,
You're either totally in or totally out.
I agree.
Maybe I'm learning to navigate like, oh, I can kind of, like today, I had about 90 minutes to go for a bike ride, and maybe it might have been nice to have more, maybe it might have been nice to drive somewhere or ride something way up high, looking down or whatever. But I had 90 minutes to bike from home, and I went out and I did it, and it felt great. And it scratched that itch, and it was enough. So yeah, and there's definitely still days where there's a yearning to do something big, to have something big on the calendar. And sometimes that helps me to have that coming up.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking maybe I should maybe put more challenges like I don't know every month or like every week,
Yeah.
and it might be a way like to not become too lazy. And I think maybe we think too much in terms of goals as human
Mm,
beings, and
yeah.
maybe if we don't have goals, then we don't become that much motivated. So that might be a way, to do the things and like to find this kind of equilibrium, let's say,
Yeah.
between not going too hard on every day with
Yep.
maybe no reasons
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
and still being happy with that thing, because that's an interesting thing you say. Nowadays you're training with joy,
Mm-hmm.
and was it the same thing when you were sponsored, like as a sponsored athlete, like you had to
Mm-hmm.
to get the podium, you had to be the best?
Yeah.
Were you still happy at that moment? Because to speak about me, like when I went, like, so I went in Thailand to do my first fight in Muay Thai, in Thai boxing,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and at one point I was training for just YouTube, and for doing the fight I was not training because I like it,
Mm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, damn, I'm not enjoying this anymore,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but I just quit like I just left. It was too much toxic for me. So, and
Yeah.
just asking to you, I was
Yeah.
just like speaking
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah, Giannis, I feel like I can relate to what you're saying. I definitely have had times where that achievement orientation probably goes too far, and then maybe you're not enjoying an activity for the love of it. Is that good or bad? Is that maybe at times that's necessary? If you're going to be a quote professional adventure racer, runner, cyclist, fighter, coach, whatever. Like, as one of my friends says, he likes to joke, well, that's why they call it work, buddy, because, it's not always
That's
fun. And maybe, that may, who knows, maybe in some ways that's a necessary evil of earning money, doing something is that sometimes it becomes that. I think maybe some of the maybe beauty or wisdom can be when we can step back and at least realize, okay, what are, am I motivated here by the love for it, by the achievement for it, or maybe, and I think maybe we see athletes, an athlete who has a long career in any sport, probably that person has been able to somehow in their own way navigate those motivations, or maybe go back and forth, in and out. So maybe here's a period of time where whatever, you're training for, let's say a cyclist is training for the Tour de France or whatever the big race is, and it's like, okay, well, this isn't fun. I'm not at home. I'm missing out on lots of other things in life, but right now this is worth it. To put that achievement orientation, to put that first, and maybe, again, they've figured out some way to make it sustainable, so that, are there other periods of the year? Are there recovery periods? Are
mm,
there, things like that where they can refuel?
okay, yeah.
And I think, some athletes figure that out, some don't. It's going to look different from person to person, and it's also going to look different at different life stages. Depending on what else is going on with relationships, with kids, with someone's parents, etc. So, yeah, it's not simple. That's for sure, Giannis.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. And another thing, so you're an ultra athlete, like you run a lot. Like, what was your longest run? Like, do you know, in terms of time,
Um,
or maybe or miles?
yeah, probably 100 miles is the longest running race I've done. I did a few of those 100 milers, and some of the adventure races we did, those would have really long trekking sections where you're running some, you're hiking some, sometimes you're crawling through deadfall or whatever. Sometimes those sections took a long time, 24 hours, 36 hours,
Yeah.
whatever. They probably, I don't know if we ever did one that was 100 miles nonstop.
And like, maybe you feel different emotions, and how do you deal with them during those kind of events? Maybe, I mean, despair, hope,
Yeah,
enjoyment, and
yeah.
like, what does it brings into your daily life?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I mean, there, colloquial saying from ultra running, is the idea that it's a lifetime in a day is what you get
Yeah.
when you run 100 miles. I think it was the legendary Ann Trayson who said that. And, I think that's right. I always tell athletes I coach that, you're going to go way up and way down. Hopefully you'll spend more time kind of at the up, or the
Yeah.
enjoyment or the appreciation, than you will at the down. But it's almost guaranteed that you're going to have both of those. You're going to have high highs where you're feeling good, you're feeling strong, you're feeling the spiritual connection with the world and the mountains and the other people around you, and it's great. It's a wonderful, I would say, uh, exceeds the level of engagement that we feel most days in daily life, and that's a huge draw,
Yeah.
right, to these kind of
True.
sports. probably, again, in the course of, let's just talk about running 100 miles, usually even the person who wins the 100-mile run, they experience lows. Either your legs suck for a while, or your stomach goes downhill and you can't take calories, or you're vomiting or whatever. And or you go downhill mentally, and often these things happen together. You're losing motivation, you're in a negative mood, and your stomach is terrible. And it feels really bad in the moment, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's many moments. One bit of advice that I give to my coaching clients is when those low periods occur, a few things. First of all, keep eating, keep drinking, and keep moving forward. And those things, sometimes that's easier said than done, but you got to keep trying to fuel your body and also fuel your brain, because often when the mood and the motivation go way down, like, your brain is simply out of calories. So you've got to eat and drink, get calories in, and keep moving forward. And then the second step is a little more philosophical. It's to realize that, back to, again, another saying, this too shall pass, right? It's not gonna last forever, and that's really hard in the moment, because if you're running 100 miles and you're at mile 50 and you feel terrible, the logical thing to say is, if I'm this bad at mile 50, I'm going to be twice as bad at mile 100, right? And if you're twice as bad as, the worst ever, like, that's unbearable, right?
Yeah.
um, that's the logical thing to say. But what I always tell my athletes is, like, that's probably not the case. If you can keep eating and keep drinking and keep moving forward and surround yourself with positive energy, whether
Yeah.
that's other people on the course or your crew or the music or book you're going to listen to, or the little thing you're going to pull out of your pocket that has your kids' names on it, or a poem or a quote or something that you put down, those things really can turn it around. And you could, like, the odds are you're actually probably going to be feeling better at mile 100 or 80
Yeah.
or whatever. So um, that's what I tell people. It's You can do it time and time again. You can describe this process time and time again, and it's still incredibly hard in the moment. Even if that there's sort of a way out, it's still really hard. And maybe that brings us, Giannis, to what you said of how does this apply, to life in general.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlaps. Like, life is great, and we have these wonderful moments in that, the world that we live in, the human connections, experiences. I mean, these things are great. Life is wonderful. And no matter what, even those of us who are very fortunate and have a lot of privilege and opportunity, life also sucks. It's really, really hard. Like, shit's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
sometimes you can see it coming at you. Sometimes it's things we can anticipate. Sometimes it's things that, come out of nowhere and just, hit us in the side of the head like a ton of bricks. Life is going to be really, really hard. And at least for me, I try to, well, a couple of things. The resilience that I've learned as an
Mm.
endurance athlete, at my darkest and lowest moments with depression and anxiety and that kind of stuff, knowing that I have that resilience inside me has it's really helped me. I've always known, like, man, I am tough and I can do this. So that story, or I might even call that a truth, that's really helped me. I also think that we can apply it to just taking a step back and saying, this is really hard. This thing that happened, this diagnosis, this day, this week. Maybe it's a phase of life. Maybe you're in a phase of life that, like, there are some things about it that are inescapable and very hard. If we can step back and have the view, this is a phase and it can change or may change, that can provide some hope. Um, And then maybe the other thing that I think that, or one of the other things I've learned is just these sports, they teach you to deal with uncertainty and to think on your feet and to be patient. And for me, those are really important tools to have, again, while we navigate just the stuff of life. That, again, a lot of this stuff, man, we like to think that we have control over it, and usually we don't. One thing I'm finding as my life goes on is I often have less control over things than I would like, or than I may thought I had. And that doesn't mean I can't make a difference. It doesn't mean I don't try hard, but it does mean there's just a lot of uncertainty, and I'm going to have to figure out things as they come.
Okay. And I'm thinking about like also all those qualities that you get that you're learning from running that amount of time, or like I mean any kind of sport, at least as long as it's enduring.
Hmm.
And so, do you think that not going through those kind of challenges, like it makes these qualities disappear? Like, do they
Mm.
stay still? Do they still stay within you, or like at one
Hmm.
time it goes? Because to me,
Yeah.
so I did like two ultra marathon, one in France and one in Cambodia,
Yeah.
and when I'm around that those moments,
Yeah.
I'm strong. I feel I can do anything in my life, and now that I'm some like I don't know, maybe 8 months later,
Yeah.
I had to run, but I got injured. I'm. I feel less like okay, I can beat anyone. I can do anything in my life. I can go
Yeah.
through anything. No matter what you do in your life, at one point, I feel like if you do nothing, it comes to you like all those bad feelings, those bad moods. Like no matter what you do, they can come, and
Hmm.
maybe you're like you still need to self actualize yourself. Like do the challenges, go through things, even like if it's I don't know something like you used to did. Like to me, running 100 kilometers to me is not a big challenge. I'm not scared anymore. I want to do
Yeah.
more,
Yeah. Yep.
but I need to speak about that later.
Yeah.
In my mind. But so yeah, I mean, even if it's like 100 and it's okay to me, maybe I should do this again, just to be in the mood, of it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you think? Like, does it disappear, like those qualities, or like do they stay?
Yeah. Giannis, that's a great question. That's really, thank you for asking. That's super insightful. I'm glad that you're noticing that about yourself. And I think that's something that many athletes can relate to.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I would say, for a lot of my athletic career, and this is often how we are brought up, as runners or endurance athletes, or in any sport, it's kind of this last race mindset, right? What did I do the last time my last soccer game, my last basketball game, what was my mile time the last time I ran the mile? And it almost, it's almost in some ways a deficit sort of mindset, right? It's like I must constantly
yeah,
prove myself. Probably for most of it, it's proving myself to myself, right?
yeah,
Maybe it's to the public, to the coach, to the sponsors, whatever. But mostly it's probably an inward kind of thing. I don't know what the answer is, but I would say at least currently the path I'm on, and man, I think about these things a lot. Giannis, it sounds like you're kind of the type of person who does as well. But the path that I'm on, I hope is one of it's less of needing that stuff,
mm-hmm,
less of a need to prove to myself, that I have what it takes, or that I'm tough, or that I'm whatever it is that we're trying to satisfy. It's a lot less of that, and more of a sense of like it's already there, kind of it's always been there. And my task is to find it and to cultivate it. And at times, maybe I will find and cultivate it using the tools of doing a race, or a challenge or something. And maybe at other times I'll be able to find find that, that thing, that stuff, that resilience, that energy, whatever it is, to find it without those. And that's at least as of late, kind of, I still like racing, and I've actually found that if I can be in the mindset of like, I'm doing these activities, doing these sports, really based on the process and the enjoyment, the community, the spirituality, the joy of cultivating fitness, these kind of things. Um, if I can then do a race, like I really like the race. It's like, man, this race, it's fun, and I like racing. I like towing the line. I like the energy. I like, having a showdown with a rival where like one of us wins and one doesn't. But it doesn't really matter. All those things are great. But it's less of a sense of needing that, needing to prove something, needing to, whatever it is, and more of just, well, maybe it's something I do, maybe it's something I don't do.
Yeah, it's super interesting because yeah, I'm asking myself those questions despite I'm young and I want to do a lot of things. I'm in between
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, do I have to do so many things or maybe should I
yeah,
like kind of find a balance in my life, and maybe
yeah,
not going for too much and finding like deep peace within me and deep happiness in the things
mm,
I do and like
yeah,
because maybe we all grew up with the desire to be someone to do yeah to be someone exactly and
yeah,
so we want to do something even if it's bad for us we push it. That's what I wanted to do in Muay Thai. Like even if I got injured like 3 times I couldn't. So for
yeah,
the fun
yeah,
part, I had to run my 100 kilometers in Cambodia, but like 4 weeks before, like someone did a low kick so hard for me, I couldn't flex my knee anymore, and I had to
mm,
deal with this.
yeah, yeah,
And after the 100 kilometers, I came back like trying to fight and
mm,
still training, and because you want to do this, you grew up with the idea of yeah, if I need to be a man, that's how you
yeah,
become a man. So
yeah,
you need to do
yeah,
all of those kind of things. And not only you show it to yourself, but you show it to the other people. And
yep, yeah,
I mean, is there a way to overcome it? I don't know. Do you know maybe in
yeah.
the end we overcome these things or
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Giannis. I mean, I think we all have different paths. I think what you're saying, it reminds me of the hero's journey, this archetypal journey that we see in literature that has different steps. It reminds me of the psychologist Carl Jung, talking about this concept of the two halves of life, where the first half is kind of maybe more sort of based in this satisfying the ego or achievement or establishing oneself, and then the proverbial second half is I don't know, maybe more of giving back or
okay,
something.
interesting.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. What do you think? I mean, I do think it's great to have goals, because having that, one thing that's great about having a goal or a dream is it dictates the process. It gets us up out of bed. It makes us have that wonderful experience of the day to day process. Yeah. What do you think? Do you have something particular that you're thinking about or aspiring to, or is on the calendar or anything?
No, not anymore. Like maybe I think I'm trying to find my way because like I've been either at school, like I've been studying a lot. I'm in one
Mm.
of the best school in the world, and
Oh, cool.
in the end, like it just destroyed my life because I got a chronic disease too because I was studying too much and I had too much
Mm.
anxiety.
Yeah.
So in this way, I was like, was it worth it? Like
Yeah.
you're working so much, and in the end, what do you have? Just an anxiety and a disease.
Yeah.
I mean, I overcame it today. I'm fine. I'm healed, so
Yeah. Good for you,
everything
man.
is fine. Thanks,
Yeah.
but um, and like you want to do many things in your life, and at one point, I think that life become much more like. A boulevard where you have a lot of broken dreams, like they say the same song says.
Mm.
And but maybe we should navigate in those kind of things and like maybe do we always have to have goals? I still don't know. Like, is it still fine to always push with goals and goals and goals
Yeah.
nonstop? Or like at one point should we say, hey, stop, I just want to do the things I do every day on a daily basis?
Hmm.
just going easy with that. I'm fine with that. I don't need more, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, like,
Maybe so. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if it's, I think it's different answers for different people at different times. And Giannis, great job to you on it sounds like addressing some of the challenges and getting
yeah,
yourself back on a healthier path.
yeah,
And that's really hard. I mean, I know for me, and I think probably for a lot of athletes, or just people who are maybe wired to sort of want to push hard,
yeah,
sometimes it's really hard to see like the damage or the challenge until it's, kind of behind us, or until there's something,
yeah,
like the chronic health issue, or something that, or the injury, where we literally cannot run another step and we're forced to stop. I like to think that maybe the wisdom, both for ourselves and for the people we interact with. I'm thinking here of athletes who I coach. Something I like to try to do is, can we anticipate the overdoing it, before it gets to, really just a super bad place.
okay. Can we anticipate? That's the question.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay,
sometimes we can, sometimes we can. But learning, learning from our own mistakes. That's probably the first key step,
yeah.
really.
I think in the end, it's just learning from our mistakes. Despite you ask to anyone how should I do, in the end, it's you always do mistakes at one point, and
Yeah.
that's the
Yep.
best way to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your book, like in Ultra Mindset, you said, like, I think it was your first adventure race when you said that the feelings you had this day with your teammates, your dad, that will always be within you.
Mm.
And so I read a book by Bill Perkins called Die with Zero. I don't know if you know this one.
I have heard, one of my coaching clients actually just recommended it to me. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. So to me, as a young boy, it was a very liberating book because it was like, I mean, to make it short, like it's life is, and you just have to accumulate memories in life,
Mm.
and by doing
Mm-hmm.
some events, and like money is just a medium for that. It's not an
Mm-hmm.
end,
Yeah.
and like the
Yeah.
money you need is just for doing what you love to do in your life. And so now, like, it was the beginning of all these events in your life, of all those races, and with hindsight, like, it stayed within you, this happy feeling. And like, do you satisfy the what he's saying, Bill Perkins, in his book, that having
Mm-hmm.
so much like races in your life, like, do you feel fulfilled? That's my question. Do you feel
Yeah.
fulfilled with all of those things in your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, like looking back on memories, friendships,
Yeah.
places, experiences. Yeah, it's all very fulfilling for sure. And do I still, experience moments of a deficit feeling, or a feeling of a void that needs to be filled, by more, usually it's more experiences, more intensity, etc. Do I feel that? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And will that always be there? Maybe. I don't know. I think I'm learning more to identify it, to navigate it. I agree with, to the topic of money. I agree with what you said, Giannis. For me, money, it's not a goal, it's a tool.
And
um,
it never had been a goal for you, right? Even when you were
um
young?
mm, no, I would say more when I was in high school and college, my mindset was maybe a little more traditional of that achievement towards a a career, a title. I wanted to be a doctor for
Oh,
many years, most of my college experience, and I think that the core of that was rooted in wanting to help people and wanting intellectual challenge, and I still really like both of those things. But there was also a draw to to that prestige in the title, and to the income that it may generate. And look, Giannis, I mean, I totally get even being able to say that money is tool. That comes from a place of privilege, like from someone who,
Yeah.
I have enough money to get by in life. And if I didn't, and if I had a different background, or I had different, luck or circumstances, or uh, whatever, it's I fully get that that's just a much different experience from what a lot of people have.
Okay, interesting. So now continuing speaking between the Ultra Mindset book and your recent book that you just, I mean, just published. When did you
Yeah.
publish exactly your A Mile at a Time?
Yeah, Mile at a Time came out this year, 2023, in March.
Okay, in March. Okay,
Yep.
and so I really so your father he got Alzheimer. Maybe you can speak about to
Yep.
us about this. You'll be better than me.
Yeah, well, yeah. So my dad would, developed Alzheimer's in his early 60s. He was diagnosed in 2018 when he was 64 years old. So anyone who's 65 or less, it's classified as early onset Alzheimer's. And he was a, he was a super fit, active guy. Who's spent still. He had recently retired as an attorney. Spent
Yeah,
a ton of time training, racing, traveling. He and my mom had a nice travel trailer, and that was their retirement dream, was drive around the country and take road trips and explore, have adventure, all that. I mean, he was doing it. They were activating this dream that they had looked forward to for a long time. And this Alzheimer's thing came around, and drastically changed that. It was what it is. This is it's ongoing. Things have changed a lot in the last 5 years. Currently, Dad.
uh-huh.
People who listen to my podcast, the Travis Macy Show, they'll hear Dad on that with some regularity, and he needs a lot of support with pretty much everything
Okay,
right now. And it's been really hard,
yeah.
sad. There's ongoing grief. Sometimes for me, it's really, really raw. And
Still today, is it still?
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And 5 years ago, I'd like to think maybe I've learned a bit about how to grieve, or how I grieve. 5 years ago, I was running away from those emotions: the
Uh-huh.
sadness, the overwhelm, the loss. I think I've come to be okay with sitting with those feelings, and just recognize they're going to be there, and they are really, really hard, and they're okay, and they're natural, and it's part of the experience. And I'm thinking of, last week I was out running in these beautiful aspen leaves that we have here in Colorado. I mean, Giannis, it's a golden cathedral. It is so damn beautiful. It's wonderful, and I'm out there with my dogs. Like this. This is what fuels my spirit. And it also, like, it's sad to know that that, like, that's not part of my dad's experience anymore. And I stopped and I spent some time just crying out there on the trail by myself. But also, like, it's okay. And this experience, it's taught me a whole new level of love, of
Yeah.
tenderness, of care, of how do you help your own kids. My kids are 10 and 12. How do I help them navigate this journey, and how do I help my siblings and their kids? It's forced me to grow up in a whole new way.
I think that's the contrast is very interesting between, you've been through a lot of hard times as a racer, and then there's this
Mhm.
thing happening in your life, and even if you've been through very hard things, I mean, you cannot really be prepared for that, no matter what you lived, and
Yeah,
that's how sensitive you are. Is like, I mean, boys don't cry, and here you say boys they do cry, and actually even
yeah,
like the toughest people in the world, like they do, and
yeah,
that's the contrast is very interesting. And I think like reflecting on this is, I mean, it can maybe help people to find peace, and they don't need to be that much hard with themselves, and that it's okay to live those emotions.
Yeah,
I find this
yeah,
very
yeah. I
interesting.
think so. I mean, I think that you know the if you read self help or psychology, or maybe do some therapy with therapists, which I've done a lot of. Those things would, I think, generally tell us that it's healthy to allow these emotions, to talk about these
Yeah,
emotions, to let them manifest. Generally, it's probably, I think most experts would say, less healthy to kind of tuck them away or whatever.
yeah.
Um,
And
so
have you been reading some like Buddhist book maybe? Because like I'm just asking you because the way
yeah,
you've wrote about like your emotions, I think that they are not going well with the Buddhism philosophy, and so I was asking myself, maybe I mean it can help me. It can help him to
yeah.
deal with those emotions. Have you been through those kind of things or?
Not. I haven't gotten too far into
Yeah,
Buddhism. I like the idea of let's can we see our emotions, our feelings, our stories? Can we see them coming? Can we
exactly.
decide which ones we sort of buy into or don't buy into? Can we let them sit, let them pass?
Yeah, exactly. That
Those kind of ideas. I do know for me, let's say, again, overwhelming sadness or loss, for me, if I try to run away from that, and escape it by literally physically running or just
yeah,
telling myself it doesn't
I
exist
can
or
relate.
whatever, it's like, damn, it is still there. Like, it is going to keep chasing you down.
Yeah,
But I find if I say, okay, here it is, this is this feeling, I'm gonna, even as bad as it is, I'm gonna sit with it and allow it to be here. Usually, it actually passes faster.
okay,
Um, yeah, so I've again, I haven't looked at Buddhism much. I've recently become interested in a framework called internal family systems, or IFS, by this guy Richard Schwartz. Kind of uh, articulated this framework, and it's just kind of the idea that within our psyche we have multiple parts, if you will, that are kind of driven by different things, different likes, dislikes, etc. And at least for me, that's been a helpful framework as of late.
interesting. Okay, I did not know at all, so I will dig a bit into
Yeah,
this.
yeah, you might be interested. The first book is called No Bad Parts. I would recommend that to you or to listeners who like this kind of stuff. And I've it's been it's been my latest kick, I guess.
Okay, okay. So yeah, just thinking maybe it's a bit. I mean, for sure, I think that all those ultra races help you to deal with this, but maybe there is a limitation to what they can bring to you
Hmm.
and how
Yeah,
they can help you. And I think that's a clear example of the limitation of them.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It
yeah.
can
I
be,
would I would
it can,
agree with that. Yeah, sometimes especially those of us who we've done keynote speaking or done training seminars or something. I think sometimes a trap that we can get into is like, oh, everything from the ultra endurance world applies directly to
yeah,
personal development or to business or to family or whatever. And I think, yes, many things do parallel and do fit together, but probably not everything, and
yeah,
probably being a super high level endurance athlete, like there's probably elements of doing that are not the best for your family or for your wellness, your zen, right? Like it's not just all that simple that everything
yeah.
applies to a different realm.
And so in your book, like you depict like, okay, how you and your family have been through like the discovery of the disease, how you
Mm-hmm.
all of you dealt with that. And that's, I mean, I loved it. And like the part I loved the most was the part about the eco challenge, right?
Yeah.
So and can you tell us a bit about this? And like my question again will be, do you feel that your dad will be able to do one? I mean, a race again? Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, still those days, does he still races? And I mean, that's a good way to have hope. I think for the
Yeah. Yeah.
Paralympics.
Yeah, Giannis, I think you're right. I think that one of the key takeaways, or at the end of a mile at a time, there's a real small kind of prescriptive section, where we sort of offer some advice maybe that other families might find relevant, and one of them is something to the extent of just staying engaged. We all need stuff to look forward to. And for my dad,
Yeah,
in 2019, and honestly for me, it was to do the Eco Challenge together. This, 10-day endurance race across Fiji. People
that's
may
so
have seen it. It
nice.
was on, it was on the Prime Video. It's called
Yeah,
World's Toughest Race, and yeah, that was the thing at that time, and man, we had a blast. It was like the one of the best races I've ever done. It was just,
incredible.
it was awesome. So we did that year. The next year was, and this will, maybe this will, I don't know, illustrate sort of the progression of the disease. So the next year, was COVID. It was 2020. All the regular races were shut down. But our favorite race series here in Colorado, the Leadville Race Series, they had this 100,000-foot challenge where over, I think it was like 6 weeks, you try to rack up 100,000 feet of vertical gain, running
Okay.
and biking. And, so that's quite a bit. And dad did that, at that point in time, again, 2020, he was able to rack up all those. The hardest thing for him was like starting Strava on his phone because he couldn't find the button and,
Yeah.
whatever, but he got the vertical feet. So, he was going super strong. And then the next year, 2021, dad and I did the 50-mile running race at Leadville together. So 50 miles up and down, uh, mountains starting at 10,000 feet in Colorado. We didn't make it though. We got to 50K and we missed the cutoff. And again, that was kind of back to this change in mindset. Like, well, we did our best. We just couldn't go
Yeah.
fast enough to beat the cutoff. So whatever, we got the full experience, but we got to stay out there longer. Like the race was won in 7 hours and we missed the cutoff at like 9.5 hours. And I was like, Dad, we got to stay out here longer than the winner. So we got the full experience. So that was that year. 2022, a good challenge for dad was to do it's called the Leadville Heavy Half. It's a half marathon that starts in Leadville, goes up to Mosquito Pass at about 13,000 feet and comes back to Leadville. So I think it's actually like 15 miles.
Okay.
And then this year, in 2023, like an appropriate challenge for dad was to do a 10K running race in Leadville, where we did it as a family, and we walked, we shuffled a little bit. I mean, we finished last. I don't know, it probably took us 2 hours or something, to do the 6.2 miles. But it was a great family experience. And so, that's kind of where he's at. Like if there was another eco challenge tomorrow, could dad go? No way,
Oh yeah.
no way in the world. It would, you know, it's not anywhere close to the realm of possibility. And is he still excited and happy to do what he's doing? Hell yeah. And what he's doing on a daily basis, be honest, there's one place dad can go alone, and it's this little dirt road next to my parents' house. Small dirt road. It's a dead end. There's no cars on it, and he can safely go there and trek up and down. And he calls it doing repeats. And he is pumped to get out there every single
Yeah.
day. Here's a guy who's been all over the world doing all this stuff. And he could have the attitude of, I used to do all this. I used to,
Yeah.
why can't I go anywhere? And I think, I think some of those stories probably pop up for him from time to time. But the main story for him is, this is awesome and I'm going to go do this. And so he does it every day. And I mean, honestly, Giannis, how long is that going to last? Like, I don't know. Um, not forever by any means, but at this point in time, getting out there and doing that, he loves it. And he continues to inspire me and just to show me, like, it's never too late to make the most of things and to make a difference for other people.
Yeah. Maybe it's an answer of saying the best thing in your life is maybe doing what you love to do every day and not
Yeah. Yeah. No,
just do
maybe
your thing.
so.
You're happy with that,
Yeah.
and everything is fine. He is enjoying his life and he's not asking any question.
Yeah. No,
Like we
maybe
are.
so.
So in a
Yeah.
way. You
Giannis, this
can.
has been awesome, man. Thanks
Yeah,
for reaching
thanks a
out.
lot.
Really good to connect with you. I am honored to be the first guest on your podcast.
Thanks a lot.
I am excited for you to take this thing and roll with this.
Thanks.
Keep me posted. I look forward to listening.
Okay, super. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. See you soon, I hope.
Okay, all right, buddy. Have a
Goodbye.
good one. See ya.
Thanks. You too.